What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Through Hine Show. In this video, I want to kind of be previewing the matchup between the Bengals and the Giants, the second preseason game for the Bengals on Sunday in New York at 7 p.m. So looking this past week, the Bengals took on the Arizona Cardinals in the first preseason game of the season. Their offensive line was just absolutely horrible. Isaiah Prince was atrocious. Hakeem Adeniji was really bad. Jackson Carman was way worse than people thought he was going to be, and that kind of says something. And then you look at, Cordell Volston, the fourth-round pick we drafted from North Dakota State this past season in the draft. There's, been talks about, there's shown some promise of Volston. And, Volston did show signs of, being pretty good for Cincinnati this past week against Arizona, but there's also some times, he didn't play so great. This, starting left guard situation is going to be very interesting. But to me, I just don't get why the Bengals did not re-sign Quentin Spain. I've said it the whole offseason, the Bengals should have signed Quentin Spain. We made so many moves, but, this is arguably the best offseason the Bengals have ever had. But it would have been even better if we were able to retain Quentin Spain. He is still currently a free agent. I really hope the Bengals are able to sign him and he can be our starting left guard, because Wilson has shown some promise, in that game against Arizona. But, I would rather take somebody who's established and who's going to be good rather than somebody who has potential like Cordell Volston. Jackson Carman, yeah, he was, like I said, he was really bad this past week against Arizona. Hopefully his offensive line can improve. Look at last preseason, our offensive line, was actually pretty good for the most part. And then the regular season, it just absolutely fell apart. Obviously, when you go to the offensive line, this past week against the Cardinals, guys like, Ted Karras, guys like Alex Kappa and Collins didn't play. Obviously, I'm sure it has a big factor of that, but hopefully we can get some better offensive line play this week against the Giants on Sunday. Look at quarterback play here. Jaden Browning was all right for the Bengals. He had a couple plays that was really impressive and a couple of plays that weren't so good. Kind of interested to see if he can kind of, have a better performance this week than compared to last week. Drew Plitz, a quarterback that, really just signed just a couple weeks ago for the Bengals. He only played one series for Cincinnati, but he was absolutely great for us. 6 for 6, 76 yards and a touchdown. I want to see maybe that's not just a one-off thing. I want to see if maybe he can do it again for Cincinnati. But he showed, some promise, in that game in that one series against the Cardinals last week. For whatever reason, the offense really got going when Drew Plitt was that quarterback for Cincinnati. Looking at some players here, Chris Evans, in my opinion, was 100% probably the best player for Cincinnati this past week. And you look at the stats, like how could you say Chris Evans is the best player in the team when he had 8 carries for -3 yards? This kind of just shows stats are so freaking deceiving. If you see a stat sheet and you see that, oh, he played god-awful. But if you actually watch the game, Chris Evans was freaking amazing, and he would have had a rushing touchdown, and he probably would have had a total of 70 or so more rushing yards for Thaddeus Moss holding on both of those plays. But Chris Evans, to me, lots of people kind of talked about in the offseason. I feel that there is a closer gap between the running back two between Samaje Perine and Chris Evans than people think. In my opinion, Chris Evans is definitely capable, and he should be the running back two once the regular season starts. And I think he kind of proved this past week that he's definitely capable of, stepping up his game and being a quality number 2 back behind Joe Mixon. Looking at some other guys here, I was kind of impressed with, Trent Taylor, a guy who, this past year was more so of a special teams guy for Cincinnati. On returns, had 4 receptions and 74 yards. He had a couple of really nice catches for Cincinnati. Kendrick Pryor, a undrafted free agent, we signed this past offseason, had 4 receptions for 89 yards and the touchdown. He had a really nice catch, and he had the touchdown from Plitz to basically end the game on the Bengals' final possession of the game. Another guy here is Jaquiz Patrick. He had a couple really nice runs for Cincinnati. He also had a couple catches as well. 2 receptions for 39 yards. Even him, to me, I think he's really underrated. You look at other guys like Trevion Williams. He had a really nice run. It's not going to show up on a stat sheet of a 50 or 60-yard run. I believe it was a 10, 12-yard run, but he broke a tackle, was able to stay up on the play and get a couple extra yards. So the running back play for Cincinnati this past week is very impressive. I want to see if that can continue this week against the Giants, because like I said, I think if Evans has a really nice game, I think we're going to be talking about it even more. Chris Evans is definitely capable of getting number 2 running back spot behind Joe Mixon. As we continue here, looking at the defense here, Daxton Hill, the first-round pick, we drafted from Michigan, nearly had an interception in the end zone. He showed some promise as well in the secondary. Clay Johnson, a linebacker, he's kind of on the bubble right now. Not for sure if he's going to make the team, but I definitely think he helped make his case. And he was all over the field this past week when we took on Arizona. A couple other guys to me that really stood out. Akeem Davis-Gaither. I was so excited to see Akeem Davis-Gaither on the field. He's a guy who, the past 2 seasons has dealt with the injury bug, but when he's been on the field, he has shown potential. He has shown promise. I'm glad that he is finally healthy. The way Davis-Gaither played, in this limited, series this past week against Arizona, that's an indication of how he's going to play this season. I cannot wait to see our linebacker group, with Logan Wilson, Pratt coming off a career year, and Davis-Gaither having a ton of potential. I'm sure he's, ready to play out there, after, having lots of injuries these past couple of years. A couple other people here I really want to see, see if they can perform, good this upcoming week is Zachary Carter, the defensive lineman we drafted from Florida. He was really making plays all over the field. Had a pass deflection. He was getting the quarterback face a couple of times. Had a couple tackles for loss. And then also, Jeffrey Gunter, our 7th-round selection from Coastal Carolina. He was really, really, really good. Had a sack. Had a couple of quarterback pressures. Had a tackle for loss or 2. Those 2 guys, to me, really stood out on the defensive side of the ball. When you look at Jeffrey Gunter, Zachary Carter, those to me were probably the best players on defense for Cincinnati this past week. When it goes to offense, it's definitely Chris Evans. I want to see if Zach Carter, Jeffrey Gunter, and Chris Evans can play like they did this past week, this upcoming Sunday against the New York Giants in New York. Like I said, there's a couple of players to me who, really, stood out, like Gunter, Chris Evans, and, Zachary Carter. Davis-Gaither, like I said, was really well. But I'm really excited to see this game on Sunday because, there's even more players to me that kind of stood out than we kind of thought there was. But even a guy like, Drew Plitz, a quarterback that nobody really thought much of, he played really, really well. Maybe, he's going to earn a, practice squad, spot for us. Kendrick Pryor, maybe he, plays good enough that he ends up making the team. I want to see if he can maybe replicate, his performance last week and, moving on to this week. There were so many players to me that just were really, really good. There was a couple players, more so on the offensive line, who just were not good. Guys like, Jackson Carman, Hakeem Adeniji, and Isaiah Prince. But I'm really, really excited this Sunday for the Bengals and the New York Giants. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Players you're really excited to see this upcoming Sunday between the Cincinnati Bengals and New York Giants on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That about does it, kind of for this short video here. If you're new to the channel or you've seen videos before, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time on the Sports Dude Hines Show.